All right, welcome back, everybody. This is What We're Watching, episode 9. One more, TJ, and we get into double digits.
Hey,
But I am your host, Joey, joined by my co host, Big TJ, to again work you through a little bit. We're like in the middle of the sandwich of
yeah.
season 3. And we will not quite get towards to where we'll get to the other piece of bread. I feel like there's another slice of salami or what have you on there before we get to the other piece of bread on the other side of season 3. But we're right in the middle where they're
Put
putting the
some.
good meats and cheeses.
Oh, so we got to put some cheese in there, man. I'm all about the select meats. I want it off the carving board, but yeah, we need some cheeses in there. I'm a
And
cheese guy now.
oh, now what cheeses do you go for? What would you go for?
So, obviously, if you haven't, tried a Gouda, I definitely
Oh,
suggest you to.
a nice
Um,
Gouda.
a nice Gouda. I like the classics. You give me a good mozzarella. I can take I can, I can take that. Cool. You'll get that one more time tonight, folks. A mozzarella. But also, also, if you've ever been to an Aldi's or you have an Aldi's in your neighborhood, they have a really diverse cheese section, and they have goat cheese that is infused with fruit,
Mm-hmm.
and that with some good pita chips is delicious. Mozzarella, gabagoo.
Now you're getting to be like Michael Scott.
Hey, hey, that right there was a compliment, my friend.
You're going to get a little stretch of vacation, go up to New York, find your favorite slice.
That's a bar. I'm gonna go all the way up to New York to get a big old slice from Pizza Hut. Oh man.
And what is it, Miss Conan O'Brien? While you're looking for Tina Fey.
Right. And it wasn't even Tina. Man, I missed that show. Darn you, Netflix.
But let's get started. We're going to start out the 5th episode of season 3, entitled "Another Toothpick." 31st overall episode of the series, written by Terrence Winter, directed by Jack Bender, and originally aired on March the 25th, 2001. You start out with Dr. Melfi and Tony, and it's a little strange there, and you're not quite sure of what's happening until the camera pans over and you see Carmela has joined them in their session. Tony listens as she asks if Carmela if she's aware of the root causes of Tony's problems. Carmela becomes defensive at what she thinks is an attempt to make her a scapegoat, prompting her and Tony to trade recriminations. While Tony is driving a tearful Carmela home, he's pulled over for speeding. And Tony is absolutely driving recklessly here in this scene. After attempts at using charm and bribery all backfire, Tony gives in and lets traffic cop Officer Leon Wilmore write up a speeding ticket. Tony contacts the corrupt New Jersey Assemblyman Ronald Zelvin to get him out of the ticket.
All right, so first, before I go too deep, shouts out to Charles S. Dutton, aka Rock.
Rock.
All right. So when I'm watching this and I saw, Tony, getting irate with Carmela, he's getting upset. The conversation isn't going the way that he wants. She is emotional, which she has been when it comes to him and his mental health. Um, because I feel like she feels like she can't fix that for him. She can't, and she said that she can't compete with Dr. Milford because Dr. Milford is able to give him something that she can't. So that situation is already tense. So he's driving fast, and then he's getting pulled over. I'm smiling because I'm like, yo, this dude he's speeding. He needs to get pulled over. But what's gonna happen when he gets pulled over? Because we hadn't seen Tony interact with too many street cops. You know, it's been nothing but FBI, and they've been so courteous to him, right? So lo and behold, who pulls up? Rock. Rock. You're not bribing Rock. You know, he clearly knows who he's pulled over. He knows. There's no way that he doesn't know who he's pulled over. But he was in for it, and we're going to talk about in a minute what happens to him as a result of it. But you know, just that whole situation with Tony and Carmela is just it's really tense.
Absolutely. Days later, while visiting a lawn ornament store, Tony sees Wilmore selling pottery. Tony sarcastically antagonizes Wilmore, who was transferred to the property room and forced to take a second job thanks to Zellman's influence, because they can't get overtime.
Can't get overtime.
Feeling guilty, Tony calls Zellman, who relates that Wilmore is thought to be battling depression. Despite this, Tony asks if Zellman can let Wilmore have his job back. Tony argues with Meadow about his racist attitudes, causing her to take the FBI bug lamp back to her dorm at Columbia University and inadvertently set back the Bureau's investigation. Tony contacts Zellman again and tells him to forget his request. When he returns to the garden store, Tony offers Wilmore a bribe to ensure that his expensive order arrives in one piece. Wilmore looks at him and walks away. Again, you can't bribe Rock.
You can't bribe Rock. Pay attention. You know, you're thinking in the grand scheme of things. You know that scene where Meadow takes the lamp. I mean, it happens pretty quickly. You know,
Right.
But that's a big deal because you know anything can happen, and right now the FBI is not aware that their you know hard work is on the way back to Columbia. But that scene when Tony goes to Fountains of Wayne, I I got knots in my stomach. You know, when I saw Rock, because I'm sitting there, we're with Tony. You know, so
Right.
we're following him. So when he pans and then he sees Rock, which isn't his name, folks, but
Right.
once Rock, always Rock.
Right.
Not Dwayne the Rock Johnson. That's a whole
No.
different Rock.
No, this
Because
is
you have to say
ROC.
Dwayne the Rock Johnson. I'm not just gonna call him Rock. No, it's ROC.
Right.
So when he pans over and sees ROC, I get nervous because I'm like, oh man, he got him fired. But then we realize he didn't get him fired. He's having to pick up that extra job because he can't get overtime anymore. But even then, Tony was still smiling like, I got you. You know, I mean, we're seeing more of his childish behavior. That's what I'll say. These are things that he doesn't always tell Dr. Milfy about unless he's trying to be, again, childish and get a rise out of her.
Right. And when we started this, I said that I thought that overall Tony was a good guy, that he was forced into a lot of bad situations. I've been slowly backing away from that ever since. And I think David Chase, for his part, wants us to not really like, we can observe these characters, we can relate to these characters, but we should not necessarily like these characters.
Well, I think more than anything, and I mean, this is a conversation that we'll have once we've seen everything and we're taking it all in a nutshell. But just with what we've seen so far, I feel like this show goes to the complexity of human beings. You know, you say what you said about Tony. You know, good guy, bad situation. I say he's capable of being so many different things. You know, he's capable of being a good father. He's capable of being a strong role model and somebody that you actually want to look up to for some of the decisions that he made. But he's also capable of being a monster and very scary and very threatening and very manipulative. And that's just like anybody. You know, it's just on a grander scale because he's the head of a family,
Right.
of other, of other monsters, So yeah, Tony, I like you see him, progressively getting worse with Dr. Melfi's help.
Having said that, though, I've been sitting here thinking about it while I was listening to you and agreeing with you. But having said that, we think back to season 2. Um, Christopher brings in the two guys to help him, and they're running the little scams and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
the one guy, his stomach is tearing up, and then
Chippendale.
Chippendale.
Yeah.
Christopher is having nightmares about the guy that he had to kill, and Big Pussy says, "Yeah, that happens. After a while, you won't worry about it." I think for a long time that was Tony, but lately, ever since the pilot episode, I mean, the whole reason that he's doing that, we are seeing him like he does these horrible things, but he's paying this huge price with the panic attacks, with the passing out and stuff like that. And I think a lot of it is the consequences of the life that he is in, that he ran from them for so long. They're now catching up with him, and he's paying that price.
I will not disagree with you. I will go as far as to say that we're both right.
Hey, that works. After attending a funeral for Carmela's uncle, Tony meets up with Bobby Bacalari and his father, Bobby Sr. And quick shout out to Father Phil was back, and his father
Father
Phil,
Phil was back. Yeah.
and preaching the funeral. I'm like, oh, Father Phil. Got a little quick shout out.
And no one has any time for him at all.
No, they are not pulling out any ziti or anything else out of the freezer for you, Father Phil. He's like, I got to sweep up these steps anyway. Y'all have a good one.
Right.
But on the steps, and they get caught up in everything, Tony learns that Bobby Sr. has lung cancer. And folks, if you're just watching this and you have one of those things like, where do I know that guy from?
Right?
It is
Because
the Rocky film.
after he squandered Rocky's money, Paulie changes his name and goes to Jersey, because we didn't know what Paulie had going on. Paulie could have had Bobby. This could be the same guy.
Absolutely.
This could totally be the exact same universe. So, hey, for all of you fellow nerds out here, yes, Rocky Balboa exists in the same universe as the Sopranos. Talk about it.
Absolutely. And Philadelphia is not that far from Jersey anyway.
Not.
I mean, now they got to go a little bit further down South Jersey and then turn. You're right there at Philly. But he can do that.
He can do it.
He got that robot. He had that robot. Put the robot in the car.
He did something with that money. Apparently, he gave it to Tony to put on the street.
When Vito's brother Brian is assaulted by a jealous Mustang Sally. Now this guy, I'm like, what the hell, dude? Let's say that you're under the impression, and for the record, this is what I am putting out there. Listen to me, folks. If you're watching this, I am putting out there. If you're under the impression that the mafia is something that was created by Hollywood, which I absolutely do, by the way, just putting it out there, all right? So let's say there is no mafia. It's all a made-up thing. Why are you acting the way that Mustang Sally acts anyway in public with that woman and all of that? And Vito's brother, Brian, he's just standing there.
Just standing there. Waiting on someone to bring him a plate and a Coke.
Yes.
Like, he was just waiting on lunch. This guy is a contractor.
He was stretching his legs. He didn't want to stay. in the
That's
Deagle.
it.
That was
No.
it.
It makes me wonder would he have been okay if he stayed in the car? No, that wouldn't have been good drama. He needed to get out of the car. But bro, like, you don't like I feel for the guy
Mm-hmm.
because in the times that we've seen him, he is just doing his job. They sent him to get Beansy's rap done. I don't know. This woman says she
Beansy's
don't
wife
want
is
him there.
like, "You get off of my lawn." He's like, "Look,
And
we
then
got
he's
this
like, look, I don't know what you're saying about your lawn. I just need to get this round done because I'm not trying to get bust in the head like he inevitably ended up doing, getting bust in the head. So it's absolutely just, that's awesome. It is just, it's crazy that he's going to get, I mean, but there are people like that. I worry about stuff like that happening all the time.
all the time, all the time."
Like guys into a heated discussion with his old lady. Old lady walks off. I'm just standing there. I just happened to be picking my butt when she was walking up, had a wedgie, and then she's gonna ask me for help, and he gonna hit me over the head with a man. Come on, that's shenanigans. That's shenanigans.
Absolutely, it is. And we're in the area of small universe. Mustang Sally's godfather just happens to be Bobby Sr. And Bobby Sr. agrees to kill him. Well, I'll take care of it. Because, like, he's just like, you see him go into Junior's house. Like, I may be skipping ahead here a little bit. I
Right.
forget what my note said. Dude got to sit down. He's like, you need some water because Junior's freaking out.
He is. He really is. The coughing that this man does hurts me to watch it. Like I can imagine what that cough is, right? The empath in me is just screaming for that cough. Um, and he's got the inhaler. We don't understand why Junior at this point. We don't understand why Junior is so concerned.
Mm-hmm.
And it totally makes sense. Again, not trying to jump ahead, but it. He said the line that gets me because Tony's talking to him about him. He says, "He's my godson only in name. You do what you gotta do."
Right.
And that was that I didn't know. And folks, if you're watching this along with us, you have to. I mean, are we going to talk about the hit? We're going to talk about the hit,
Oh,
right?
yeah. No, we're going to get there. Yeah.
Cool.
Oh,
Cool.
goodness. And so, like, we're going to get to my low level new favorite character in a few episodes. I got a guy. All right.
All right.
But my favorite, like, regular recurring character is Bobby Jr. I just feel something so far. Like, 2 episodes from now, he may flip out and, like, you hate him. So far, I'm like, you know what? I like that guy. I like his heart.
To the
He
victor goes the spoils.
he, of course, and I'd be the same way. He worries about his father. This is his father and all that. So he, fearing for his father's health, asked Junior to convince Tony get somebody else. Look, I'm not saying don't do it. Absolutely do it. It needs to be done. Just
Right.
find somebody else to do it. And I'm like, I felt that. Junior attempts to make Tony change his mind, eventually turning to Johnny and Ralphie. Tony angrily informs them that the matter is no longer up for discussion. Tony, Johnny, and Paulie realize that Ralphie resents Gigi for being promoted as capo of their April crew over him. And Ralphie has he has come with his own just huge UPS box worth of stuff.
Ralphie has a serious little man complex. Like he's that person that walks around with the bravado that he has because he knows what the family that he is a part of. He knows what that represents. He's a jerk.
Right.
He's that guy that's gonna make fun of somebody, you know, And that's honestly how he feels. He wants to make fun of the person. But when people give him a negative response, oh, I'm just messing. No, you weren't messing. You meant what you said. But that's how he does. And he's openly insubordinate, which when you're talking about earlier in the season with the dumpster fires, Tony told him no more fires. So he goes and busts the dude up, and then his response whenever he's doing it, oh, Tony said no more fires. He's openly insubordinate. It can't last like that, man.
And then let's say you've got a favorite movie. Let's say your favorite movie is Goodfellas, okay? And back in the day, you had that VHS tape of Goodfellas and you watch it all the time. So much so you wear the tape out. I feel like Ralphie is like that with Gladiator on DVD. Like he done burned through some DVDs. He done watched Gladiator so much. Time to get a new disc. Because that guy always watching Gladiator.
Big time facts. I'm curious. If 300 were a movie that were released in this universe, I'm curious as to how he would feel about 300 because he really did. He loved Gladiator. And you talking about wearing the tape out. I watched White Men Can't Jump so much to where there's a spot in the movie where the tracking goes off because because the tape is kind of thin. So yeah, I know, and he is exactly like that with Gladiator, bro, 100%.
I'm gonna pause here for a second, just to give a shout out because I'm watching Netflix. I still have Netflix. They keep going down in price. I've also got Netflix stock, and it keeps going down in price. After a while, I'm gonna own it. So I'll get you a job if you want it.
There you go.
In another 3 months, I probably will own all of Netflix. But I'm watching the final group of episodes of Grace and Frankie with Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda, who play. Are you familiar with the show?
I am familiar with the premise, but I've never watched it.
They play women whose husbands own the law firm together. It turns out the husbands are both gay and in love with each other. And on the first episode, the husbands are played by Sam Waterston and Martin Sheen. Their house gets broken into, and they call the cops. The cops do the thing. They say, "You have a fantastic neighborhood watch here. You need to join it." Head of the neighborhood watch comes over and all of that, and it's played by the guy who played Richie. And I'm like, where do I know that guy from? Because it's been, 23 years or whatever, because his hair is grayer now. And I'm like, I'll be damn, that's Richie. Guys, watch it if he pulls a gun out, because you're not going to want to stay around. You're going to need to go check the casserole.
Richie Aprile or Ralphie?
Richie, not Ralphie.
Richie?
Yes.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, because Ralphie is Joe Pantoliano from the Goonies and all these other things. And he's bald in real life.
Yes.
Richie now has got that gray hair. He's looking good. I mean, he looks older. The hair's gray, and he's got more wrinkles, a little bit more dough here. But other than that, the same thing, and he looks really good. So just shout out. Talking about Ralphie made me think of Jackie, which made me think of Jackie Jr., which made me think of Richie.
6 degrees of separation, baby.
It's all the same family.
Yes, it is.
Literally. But yes, Ralphie absolutely resents Gigi being made over him. Bobby Sr.'s hit almost goes awry and ends with a struggle, but Bobby Jr. succeeds in shooting Sally and his friend Carlos. Bad time for Carlos to be over at the crib.
Seriously. That was the worst hit ever. Like I wanted to, and I'm sitting there as I'm watching this, I'm thinking of jokes in my head, and I'm like, this is the perfect time to make a joke about old people. But then I'm like, no. That's
It is
not
not the perfect time.
that's not the way to go. But seriously though, this 68-year-old man goes to take this hit, and it totally made sense for it to be him because the guy's guard is down. You know, this
Yeah.
is his godson. There's no reason for him to be worried, but he sends the dude out of the room, and you know the rest is history. You know, he shoots off his ear, and the thing that was most telling for me, I don't know if he knew he was getting ready to die or not, because he did not wipe any of that blood off of him whenever he got in that car. He is driving, coughing, covered in blood. You know, so whenever he gets in the accident, they probably don't even know he just did a hit because they think that, you know, all that blood on him is from his own accident.
Junior thought the same thing. Junior's like, give me a blow by blow of everything that happened. They're like, the man is dead. But if you can see, like, but I can see why Sally's guard is down, because he comes, I'm going to make it right. You know, we smoothed it all over, and he's like, yeah, just tell him there was nothing. I didn't mean it. I didn't know who it was, and all of that. And doesn't he ask for water or something like that? And he goes and gets it for him.
He's like, give me some water. He's like, you want some ice? No. But I want it cold. Just let it run for a little bit. Because we all know that we did it at one point in time or another. You know, you let the water run for a little bit.
You let it run for a minute, yeah.
Let it open up. Clean up the pipes a little bit. It gets colder. Yeah.
It gets colder, yeah. But that moment, even though the blood is running everywhere, I feel like he feels like he's somewhat normal again. Like he feels alive and not just going from place to place, having to sit down after coming up the steps at Junior's house and all of that. And his inhaler slips. And he's done the same thing I've done. I've almost crashed so many times. I'm like, I can almost get it. You do that thing like, all right, just good. And then you the lean down and stuff like that, and it will always move. It touches your fingers and then slips
it's gonna
away.
slide a little bit. Yep.
Oh. However, after leaving the scene, Bobby Sr. has a coughing fit and loses consciousness, resulting in a fatal car accident. Bobby is extremely upset at the news. Later, Junior informs Tony that he's been diagnosed with stomach cancer and asks him not to tell anyone. Tony, however, tells Janice, and they both meet at Livia's house and discuss the deaths in their family. When Bobby comes to get Junior for his father's wake, he admits he has cancer and pretends to be too sick to go. Artie becomes upset as Adriana leaves Vesuvio after Christopher has gotten made. A drunken Artie insults Chris in front of Tony. Artie is just all over the map on this episode, which almost leads to violence. After Chris leaves, Artie tells Tony that he's in love with Adriana, and Tony's like, what? I can't. He's like, I can't.
No.
But Tony tells him to sober up and never utter those words again. The next day, Tony suggests that he and Artie go into business together selling Italian food products under is it Satriel's brand name?
Satriel?
Satriel.
Talking about the
shop.
The butcher shop? Satriel? Yeah.
Satriel brand name. Charmaine nixes the idea, believing Tony only wants another business to use as a front. During the ensuing argument, Charmaine tells Artie that their marriage is over. Later, Artie has an awkward dinner with Adriana, who realizes that he is romantically interested. But I feel like she kind of extracted herself from the situation really, really well.
As best as she could.
Yeah. And I learned this. The title is apparently an old slang term that Livia had used. Apparently, a lot of people used it. That revived by Janice to describe cancer victims on the brink of death, wasted away due to the disease. They described them as a toothpick. So he's just another toothpick, which I found really, really interesting.
So First, because you hit a lot with the breakdown, and I want to get first off. I did not know that cancer in certain circles is referred to as the big casino. Like that's how he said it, and I mean it's just like because when Tony said he told Tony, I got cancer, and then Tony's like, what? And he's like, yeah, the big casino. I was like, big casino. So that
I've heard
right
it called the
there,
Big C.
the big C, but no, he says the big casino. So if you ever hear that
Casino, yeah.
again, it shouts out to Junior. That scene with Christopher and Artie was really hilarious because Artie is doing everything in his power to get a reaction out of Christopher.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to because he feels like his relationship with Tony is more strong. Tony's not gonna let anything happen to him. Chris got close. Chris got close. He's gonna be the one eye having a chef out here. And I love the way they did the framing on the conversation between Charmaine, who is a very beautiful woman, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
Charmaine and Artie, because the way that scene starts, it's focused on them two. So it seems like, maybe to me, that it's the end of the night. They're having this conversation and it's just them two in the room. When she says, Arthur, this marriage is over, and she storms out, and then you realize they've been having this whole conversation in front of a room full of people. That is hilarious to me. Like I am just like, wow, that is the worst time to have that. He could not have waited to any other time to have that. Nah, that was a trip. But I felt for Bobby, because Bobby wanted Junior to go because Junior was like a second kind of father to him. I think he looked up to him. He obviously thought a lot about the relationship, which is why he came to him and asked him to ask Tony not to have his dad do the job in the first place.
Right.
Um, and it seems like Junior is defensive of Bobby sometimes. So him not wanting to go was extremely selfish. And I don't know. I don't know. If Bobby were pissed, I'd understand.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Then we get to the next episode, University. Um, the 36th episode, the 32nd overall episode, 6th episode of season 3. Written by Terrence Winter, Salvador J. Stabile, David Chase, Todd A. Kessler, Robin Green, and Mitchell Burgess, directed by Alan Coulter, and originally aired on April the 1st, 2001. Now, according to Ariel Kiley, who plays Tracy, a lot of subscribers canceled their HBO service because of the episode and everything that happens in it. Now, she has claimed this on a lot of different interviews. I don't know if this is true or not, but let's get into the reason why. Because this is one of the heavier episodes.
Yeah.
At the bada bing, Tony receives homemade date nut bread from one of the strippers, Tracy, in gratitude for helping her out with her sick son. Tony graciously refuses the gift, partly because Tracy is having an affair with Ralphie. Meanwhile, at Columbia University, Meadow is becoming intimate with Noah when they are interrupted by her roommate, Caitlin, who is in the midst of an anxiety attack. After Caitlin calms down, Meadow goes to Noah's room and loses her virginity to him. Later, Noah and Meadow plan to cheer Caitlin up by taking her out for her birthday. They spot a babbling homeless woman who causes Caitlin to become upset again and flee to her dorm room. Caitlin loses it when they see this woman. Tired of dealing with Caitlin, Meadow visits Carmela and talks about her relationship with Noah. When Noah gets a C- on the term paper, he blames Caitlin's repeated interruption, and his father, Lynn, files a restraining order against her. Now, before this, Meadow has gone back home. Caitlin shows up at Noah's room, and she's like, "Can I just hang out?" I went down a rabbit hole one afternoon after watching this online to see people's opinions on did they sleep together.
Right.
Where do you fall on that?
100%. I think they did. I think that just adds to the old suckiness of it all. But I think with Noah's behavior and what we inevitably see from Noah a little bit later on, I think he slept with her.
Yeah, I absolutely do. And so instead of doing his paper, which he then gets a C- on, and so he blames it
Right.
on her. Meadow meets Lynn for dinner, where the topic of Tony's profession comes up. The following day, Noah breaks off his relationship with Meadow, telling her that she is too negative and cynical. She is left shocked and upset. And this guy, I'm just done with him.
Yeah.
I was on his side with the
At first.
thing. I'm like, because they're bringing up movies, and then Tony does that. But this guy, oh,
It's sucky because we get an exchange between Meadow and Tony prior where her bike was stolen.
right,
And, Carmela saying that it was a couple black guys from the neighborhood. So Tony, being Tony, smiles and makes his remarks because he and Meadow were already at odds about the whole know of it all anyway. So now, and we'll get more into the overall complexity of the relationship of this episode because we're talking about essentially the lives of three women in this episode, and Tracy, Meadow, and Caitlin.
right.
And all three of them go three very different ways. But you have to feel for Meadow because I mean she's been pursued. She's been pursued, and she never went that far. So to finally take that step and become intimate with somebody that your father doesn't approve of, and then for him to do exactly what your father is insinuating, but it's not for the reason that Tony is saying. Tony's saying he's gonna break your heart, but not for the same reasons, like that ultimately ended up happening because it doesn't matter what Noah's background was, doing what he did, breaking up with her the way he did, like a couple days after taking her V card. I mean, that's just shitty timing.
Right.
So it's tough, but I think again, look at the three main points of interest for this episode. Those three women, and with the episode being titled what it is, that's a time of learning and seeing their own seeing their maturity or their arc in this episode. All three of them very different.
Oh, sure. And the episode is not really great to any of the three.
No.
Caitlin's still spiraling out of control. She's got the restraining order and all of that. Meadow loses her V card to Noah. And then I think that's just what he wanted. Because then he slowly loses interest in her. Just like, because I think he slept with Caitlin too, just like he loses interest in Caitlin and then, oh, she's crazy and all that. And then poor Tracy. We'll get into that. So none of them, and you contrast this is university, contrast it with college from season 1.
Right.
Another where you're learning, you're growing up and you're learning that. Then it was Meadow with what her father really does for a living and what they did while they were on that college tour with the mud and I forgot my stuff and all of that, and contrast it with what's happening now.
And if I can say really quickly to that point, college, she's still in high school under the umbrella of the family.
Right.
University, she is out there on her own. She is reaping the benefits or the thorns from her own decisions. It's not about what her family is doing now. It's about her and how she's handling her business. And yeah, powerful stuff.
One afternoon, Tracy tells Tony that she is pregnant with Ralphie's child and asks whether she should get an abortion. He advises her to do so and not tell Ralphie about it. Ralphie becomes obsessed with the film Gladiator. and roughhouses with Georgie at the VIP lounge. Things become tense when Ralphie finds a length of chain and swings it at Georgie, severely injuring his eye. Tony angrily makes Ralphie take Georgie to the emergency room. Later, Silvio is shocked to find that Tracy, who has missed work for a few days, is at Ralphie's townhouse. He forces her to get into his car while Ralphie watches from the window in amusement because Silvio had paid for those braces. How's she going to pay him back if she's not working?
We've already talked about, Ralphie's immaturity. I called him a jerk. I mean, exactly what I said.
Yeah.
Tracy, I mean, we hadn't mentioned it beginning of the episode. Her teeth are a little spaced out. I think that's the politically correct way to say it. There's some space between her teeth. Sil, being the pimp that he is, I could get more money off her if I fix her mouth. So he does that, and he says it. I can't get paid back if she's not working. So I feel for this girl. I feel for this girl because she has the greatest admiration for Tony. Bringing him banana bread when she's got her teeth fixed, she's smiling in his face, and Sil's like, leave the man alone. He has a daughter who's out here doing her own thing and getting hurt. He has another girl that is clamoring for a father figure, and we see what inevitably happens because she doesn't have one.
During an early morning party at the Bing, Tracy insults Ralphie in front of the other mobsters. The argument escalates in the parking lot, ending with him brutally bashing her head into a metal guardrail, killing her. In violation of Mafia code, Tony assaults Ralphie, a fellow made man. Tony takes Tracy's death badly and becomes emotional during a therapy session with Carmela and Dr. Melfi. The other Bada Bing strippers ask amongst themselves where Tracy went. Georgie, sporting a bandaged eye, trains a new stripper in place of Tracy.
Shouts to the Bing girls. Because one thing that we know about the Bing girls, they don't stop.
Nope.
Okay. Something goes on, somebody gets into a fight, somebody gets escorted out, somebody raises their voice, you hear gunshots. Something's on the news. The only way that you stop dancing is when Jackie April died. Because that time you remember I'll remember where I was this day. But other than that, they do not stop dancing, bro. But no, all jokes aside, man, it's hard to watch an episode like this and not have some emotional connection to the episode. It was a very heavy episode, but it was again very important to the overall theme. And then again, it shows some of the diversity that the Sopranos brings with regards to how they present an episode. It is not all male dominated. The episode, they have very strong female actors. Women. They have very strong women playing in this show. And these women, and even Tracy's it was one episode. That's all we got from her. But that was a powerful episode in the grand scheme, and her role was major. So, R.I.P. Tracy. Am I doing that now? That's a thing.
Pour one out for Tracy. All right. And so throughout the episode, Ralphie quotes and talks about scenes from Gladiator. Christopher trying to reach out that olive branch. I like movies too. Why don't you check out Spartacus with Kirk Douglas? And Ralphie is not all about Spartacus. They didn't have hairstyles back then. Oh, goodness. All right, so now we get to the 7th episode of season 3, 33rd overall episode of the series, Second Opinion. Written by Lawrence Connor, directed by Tim Van Patten, originally aired on April 8th, 2001. While under anesthesia during surgery, Junior hallucinates about FBI agents offering him a cure to his cancer if he cooperates with them. During surgery, his physician, Dr. John Kennedy, cuts short the lab report, citing his busy schedule, and consequently removes too little of the tissue surrounding Junior's tumor. Dr. Kennedy informs Tony and his crew that Junior's tumors have been removed with complete success. However, on a later visit, Kennedy informs Junior and Bobby that they have found more malignant cells and would once again like to perform surgery. Junior, unaware of Kennedy's slipshod practices, agrees. But Tony doesn't. He believes Junior is more fascinated that his doctor happens to have the same name as President John F. Kennedy. And Junior says, I love that man. What about the stuff with Hoffa? That was the brother.
That was a brother.
And he's so upset about it. That was the brother.
That was a brother.
So Tony and Junior visit another doctor in New York City for the second opinion, who recommends that Junior receive chemotherapy treatment. Eventually, a tumor board review is called, and they reach the same conclusion. Junior undergoes chemo and suffers unpleasant side effects. Unsatisfied with the treatment, Junior waits to hear from Kennedy, who is not returning his calls. And Junior's getting increasingly frustrated with that. He's not returning my calls. I can't get a hold of him. So to appease his uncle, Tony goes and visits Kennedy on the golf course and brings Furio with him.
There you go, Furio.
And intimidate him into being more receptive to Junior. So Kennedy then appears at the hospital and warmly greets Junior. And you would have thought that they, it was Christmas morning and Junior was 6 years old. Dr. Kennedy.
Hey, Dr. Kennedy.
Santa Claus.
Papa.
Papa. He's like, look. And Dr. Kennedy's like, if I was having it done, this is the guy.
This is the guy.
He doesn't know that guy. And you know what it reminds me of? This is what I heard one time. And I specifically heard it about the Clintons, but I swear I think all politicians do it. They said both Clintons will do this. They'll come out on stage, all right? They'll look to the crowd. They'll point to somebody like there's some, you're here, and like wave madly. They don't know that person.
They don't know that
they
person
don't have
at
no
all.
clue.
Unless everybody in the crowd is a real person, except for that one staged person. Except for the sad thing, it's the same stage person at every event. So they always have to act like, yeah, it's me, I'm here. They're tired of it. Me, I came.
Dr. Kennedy.
Papa.
I don't know why they cracks me up. Papa. He's like, so yeah, if I was having it, this is the guy, I would have it done. Everything. Let me look at that chart. Oh, this looks good. Here's my home phone number. You need anything? You need me to go to the grocery store for you?
Knowing that cell phone, that number he gave us to a phone that he doesn't use anymore. He just has it. It's still active. It'll get you a voicemail, but he's not checking it. Like he wanted to wash his hands of the whole thing, which is why he said, look, if I'm having this done, this is your guy. Now he's not mentioned this guy one time with all the consultations he had with Junior. But today, if I'm having this done,
that's the man. This is the guy.
Right.
But you know those notes that he does? Like, call so-and-so back. Once a month, he's like, check the voicemail, delete all the because after a while, Junior would call and it's like voicemail full, and he doesn't want any more calls from Tony, any more visits from Tony. So, meanwhile, Carmela attends a session with Dr. Melfi, but Tony doesn't appear. She breaks down and she realizes her ignorance about Tony's job. Melfi recommends for Carmela to see Dr. Krakauer, a colleague in Livingston, as her own regular therapist. After she details her life with Tony to Krakauer, he recommends that she leave the marriage since Tony's life is dangerous and that his income is derived from blood money. He advises Carmela to use only the legitimate funds she can muster to survive on and raise her 2 children alone. And he just doesn't care. Look, I'm not going to charge you, but you can't say that you didn't know. And I'm like,
Lord, somebody was gonna say something to her. Like, I mean, it's like, and it might as well come from somebody that she just met, has no interest in, because those are the only people that are gonna shoot her straight. The people that she doesn't deal with on a regular basis. Same thing with Kuzumano's sister. You know, she tried to be as direct as she possibly could. She kept telling her no. It's everybody else that Carmela has in her life on a regular basis that are constantly giving her what she wants. So this guy tells her straight up. Same thing Dr. Melfi would have said, but the thing about it is it can't come from Dr. Melfi. And I think that's part of the reason why Dr. Melfi suggested the specific guy that she suggested. Carmela needs to get out of this situation. She's now had 2 sessions with Carmela and Tony. She's had a relationship with Tony for the past 3 to 4 years. She knows who she's dealing with. Yeah, she's telling this is everybody holding up the doggone sign that says "Get out, get out, get out, get out." You know, but it seems like she's in the upside down.
Carmela visits Meadow, who is still sour over Noah's breakup and Tony's attitudes. Carmela defends Tony and challenges Meadow to explain herself, but she does not respond. Later, Carmela has lunch with Columbia's dean over a donation. Carmela is receptive to funding a student center, but Tony angrily balks and only agrees to go as high as $5,000. That's what we gave the high school she went to. That's what we'll give there. Later, she tells Tony that she's already told the dean she will give $50,000.
$50,000.
Tony initially objects, but when Carmela tells him that he must do something nice for her, he reluctantly agrees and suggests they go out to dinner. Christopher is aggravated when Paulie asks him if he's wearing a wire during a pool game at the Bada Bing. Now, Paulie is pushing some buttons during this episode. Paulie forces Chris to strip naked to prove it and makes fun of his penis size. Later at 2 a.m., Paulie and Patsy arrive unexpectedly at Chris's apartment and comb his belongings looking for swag. Chris grows upset when Paulie sifts through Adriana's clothes. Tony dismisses Chris's complaints, and Paulie warns him to never go to the boss again about the argument between the two of them. He sniffed her panties.
He sniffed her draw, bro.
And Paulie's like, when they're married, he can be the only one that does it.
Listen,
he's got no chill.
He zero chill, and I get that it is a family, and look. No one outside of the family can mess with anybody in the family without fear of getting messed up.
Right.
If me and you are both made, I should be able to slap you across your face. Like, if there were ever a time for Will Smith to stand up and slap somebody, that was it right there. Don't sniff my wife's drawers. That right there was the moment. That was it. But he can't do nothing because of the family. That's tough.
Right. Tough. Well, and think about what just happened. Tony is in that situation now because he did attack another made man. They're both made. You're not supposed to. They're supposed to be off limits.
And that's the thing that's messed up. They would say, and I know how it would be written for the characters, and I'm saying it like that in my head. I will not say that right here because it's not me speaking. But Chris looks at Tony like, you gonna punch Ralphie over somebody that you're not even laying with. She's not even your Gumar. But yet, this man disrespected the woman that I am going to marry. And you got nothing for me? I get it. I'll be pissed too.
Yet, then Paulie comes when he tells Christopher, don't go to the boss, catches Christopher coming out of the hotel with another woman. He's like, you're all upset over this stuff. And then Paul is like, let me show you something. And he reaches to the back, and Christopher's like, am I about to go? And he starts to go for that ankle holster.
Right.
And then Paulie brings out the big mouth Billy Bass. And they have a good chuckle over that kind of smooths things over.
Paulie's never been married. He's always been doing whores. I'm not calling them whores. That's what he calls them whores. They're not real people. They're fictional. Don't get upset with me. Get out the comments. I'm saying all he does is sleep with prostitutes. He has no one except for his mom. You know, and you're not going to disrespect his mom. You know, so I don't know. I just think he has a hard time seeing Christopher as an equal. You know, he's always been the guy that was at Tony's, ankles when he was coming up. He just got made, and when he gets made, he gets put under Paulie.
Right.
So that's definitely going to create problems, especially consider Paulie's personality. But yeah, I mean they win. They've got history. I don't understand why they can't get along. They chased that guy in the woods. It was freezing cold.
They haven't done it yet. They haven't done it yet.
Don't you tell me that.
Pine Barrens? Is that what you're talking about?
Sorry.
They will do that. They have not done that yet. But yeah.
I could have sworn that was in season 2.
No, your point, though, is made. Like, they do have history.
Mikey.
But
they went after Mikey Palmieri.
They went after Mikey together.
Yeah.
You're right. They do have history together. But he gets made, then he gets put under Paulie, and immediately Paulie gets shorted like the first week because of Christopher doesn't know how to play. Even though the guy's like, look, no, we should do this to cover ourselves. And Chris got to go after that sure thing.
Right.
And ends up losing his shirt. But Paulie looks at it like this. Like, he's loyal to Tony. He kind of came up with Syl and with Pussy and all that. And he remembers this kid, who's, kind of always been around and all that, but he still looks at it as a kid.
Spider.
Right. And the actor who plays Paulie is like, told the creators, like, I will do anything you want me to do. I just can't play the character. He couldn't play Big Pussy's part. He would never be the informant. You want to make me the incompetent? I'll be the best incompetent you ever want me to do. You want me to be the tough guy? I'll do that. I just can never be a rat. I don't know if he's really in with people like that. That's just how he is. But like, I will do anything. I just can't turn. That's what he told them. Now later on, he may turn on everybody. I don't know yet, but that's what that's how he started with that. Because he originally also auditioned for the part of Tony.
Really?
Yeah.
Can't see it. I can't see it.
So they settle by bonding over a big mouth Billy Bass that Paulie plans to give Tony. Meanwhile, Carmela spots Angie at a supermarket and invites her to dinner. Angie explains her dog is very sick and that she cannot afford veterinary bills after Pussy's disappearance. Carmela tells Tony, who visits the residence, and spots a new Cadillac in the driveway. Because she had mentioned grievances that were not Carmela's business, he angrily damages the car with a baseball bat. He tells Angie that if she needs money, she should come directly to him. Don't say you can't afford this when you can afford this car.
You can afford this car. You don't need that dog. That's what Tony would say. I like that they're showing us this side of what happens when a maid guy goes missing.
Right.
Because up until this point, we recognize Big Pussy's gone. We know why he's gone. We know where he's at. He's swimming with the fishes, but we haven't, gotten a whole lot of, closure with regards to his family and his sons.
Right.
So getting this episode and seeing her somewhat destitute, but then to realize she's got a new caddy, it's like you can't really feel bad. I don't know what's going on, but Tony, that's not the way. That's not the way. Going through Carmela is not the way.
Absolutely. And this was the thing that was spoiled for me about a month and a half ago. I was listening to a podcast that has nothing to do with The Sopranos. And it's like they took a hard right turn to talk about uh, Angie and the fact that, Tony kind of resents that this is happening, but he is the reason that she's in the situation that she's in. So,
True.
and I'm like, well, now I guess I know how Big Pussy gets whacked.
Hey,
So
well,
let's get
at
what
least you're getting out of the stuff that's been
I'm
spoiled
getting.
for you.
I'm starting to. I've got like one or two very minor things left, but I'm starting to get out of it. So now let's get into and meet my new favorite minor character.
All right.
The episode, eighth episode of season 3, 34th episode overall, is called He Is Risen. Written by Robin Green, Mitchell Burgess, and Todd A. Kessler, directed by Alan Coulter, and originally aired on April the 15th, 2001. As Tony enters Dr. Melfi's office for his appointment, he learns that she accidentally double booked. He is intrigued by the other patient, Gloria Trillo, who works as a saleswoman at a Mercedes-Benz dealership. Elsewhere, Tony is still on the outs with Ralphie over Tracy's murder and his continued disrespect. Tony is reluctant to put Ralphie out to pasture as he is a particularly good earner. When he remembers that Ralphie and Rosalie are to join them for Thanksgiving dinner, he forces Carmela to lie to Rosalie, saying that the dinner has been canceled due to Carmela's father's poor health. I don't care what you tell her, he's not coming over here.
Tony did not
Carmela,
want to spend any more time than he had to with that guy.
he's not coming over here for Thanksgiving. Carmela and Rosalie notice a budding relationship between Meadow and Jackie Jr. While on a date, they end up in a parked car near Hunter Scangarella's house where they make out. Meadow warns Jackie that their relationship is unlikely to go anywhere at the moment. Later, a drunk Meadow takes Jackie's car and wrecks it. Meadow is unharmed but desires to spend the night with Jackie instead of being driven home. Ralphie expresses his dissatisfaction with Tony to Eugene and Vito. However, Johnny advises Ralphie to apologize to Tony. Johnny also suggests to Tony that he promote Ralphie to Capo, but he refuses. At Vesuvio, Ralphie approaches Tony and apologizes for all of his past indiscretions, including his killing of Tracy, and blames his actions on his cocaine use. Tony doesn't acknowledge Ralphie, who leaves empty-handed. When an infuriated Ralphie complains to Johnny, he says that Tony was posturing as part of the game. Johnny is working both sides here.
Oh, big time facts. Big time facts. Johnny Sack shouldn't be in Jersey to begin with. Big
Right.
Carmine does not want him there. Or at least that's what he said. That Big Carmine doesn't necessarily care for him being in Jersey. Tony wasn't happy about Jackie being in Jersey and the way that he found out after Johnny's
The
already
way
been.
Right, right. It's not
You know,
like Johnny's coming from California and I didn't have time to tell you, Tony.
right? Like
This
he,
is like a 45-minute drive. You can make the drive. Listen, Tony, my wife, wants to be close to the family and all of this and all that.
any of it. This
There's a
man,
way to do it.
there's a way to do it, but clearly he had no desires of letting Tony know what was happening because this man is went house hunting. He's made an offer. He's purchased this house. And then he lets Tony know after the fact. Tony's upset. And he knows that Ralphie has to be talking to somebody. So, you find out it's Johnny Sack when Johnny has already promised that he's not going to get involved. That's a teapot ready to shoot. Oh, that was good.
Right. That was good. Write that down. So Tony is reluctant to replace Gigi as capo of Ralphie's crew, afraid of looking indecisive and weak. However, he is pressed into making that decision when Gigi dies of a heart attack on the toilet.
On the toilet. Can I share something with you, man? Like, seeing Gigi
Always.
die on the toilet, my guy, has made me nervous to go to the bathroom now. I'm like, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. Like, it's not always smooth sailing. So if you get just a little bit of, hesitation, I'm fearful of putting too much pressure on it. I'm like, dang, I don't want to die like Gigi.
Welcome to my nightmare the past decade. Folks, I'm going to give you a little peek behind the curtain here, all right? Joey lives in Maine. Joey lives in Maine with his wife. She is my second wife. I'm cool with my first wife, nothing against her. When we were together, every summer, other times as well, but particularly the summer, we'd always read a book together and we'd always watch a TV show. One summer, we picked the show The X-Files. And there's an episode there, particularly to do with bugs. And Mulder finds a man dead on a toilet. Scully, boom, right away, because Scully's background is as a doctor. Oh, this is common. What do you mean? A lot of people die on the toilet from strokes. Why? Straining too much. And I'm like, excuse me? Do what? Flashes through my head all the time. Seriously, dude. Actually, at this point, it's been a decade and a half. Welcome to my nightmare.
All right. So look, this aired. You said this aired 2001. I probably watched it in 2006. So yeah, we're talking 16 years.
Yeah,
That
around that time.
yeah.
Actually, I think my ex and I watched X-Files maybe 2008, 2009-ish. Yeah,
Yeah.
just because, as they mentioned at his funeral, that's how Elvis went. And that Don guy from The Simpsons, they're talking about a producer named Don Simpson.
Mm.
He always remembers it all. But absolutely, that's how they both died. That's how Gigi went.
How Gigi went? It's not gonna be me, man. It's not gonna be me. I'll do nah. It's not gonna be me, man. I won't allow it. I won't allow it.
So you're saying that if I hear that, God forbid, TJ is gone and they found him on the toilet, immediately I suspect foul play.
Immediately, either foul play or somehow I faked my death.
He looks good. He looks good. And wink at me. Related thing, I talked about my next door neighbors who were like grandparents and they were into the Sopranos and all of that. So at my neighbor's funeral, we go up to the casket. I'm with his two grandsons. And they're like, Grandpa looks really, really good. And the other one says, I don't think he's dead. And I'm like, look, the man was embalmed. If for some reason he was not dead before that procedure, he's dead now. Now, wait. Point taken. Looks excellent. And looks excellent.
He's dead.
He's dead. Much like Gigi.
Much like Gigi.
He's dead.
Gigi gone. R.I.P. Gigi. It's a
Now,
thing.
no, it is. Now, admittedly, don't want to go like that. Would rather go like that than how Tracy went. Just going to be honest with you. He's done. He's finished. It's over. He needs a moment. He needs a moment.
I feel so bad for laughing so hard. That was wrong on all the levels. People, I'm so sorry. No, what happened to Tracy was horrible, and I feel like in honor of that, I have to give her another RIP. RIP Tracy.
Okay, I'm gonna finish this, and then I'm gonna circle back because it doesn't mention it in my notes here. At Gigi's funeral, Tony contemplates promoting Vito, Eugene, Donnie K, or Ralphie. At Vesuvio, Tony informs Ralphie that he's been bumped up, but refuses to say whether he's being promoted on merit or just to replace Gigi. Later, Tony visits Gloria's dealership and asks if she will accompany him on a test drive. They end up on Tony's boat, where it is implied that they have sex. Gloria calls Melfi to cancel her session. Melfi hears a man's voice in the background. As we see the Stugots on the water, some ducks arrive. Again with the ducks.
Again with the ducks. We have to point to that, and I know we were talking about some other things, but you know, Gloria, Tony meet at Dr. Melfi's office. Tony's asking Dr. Melfi a lot of questions about this woman, but obviously Dr. Melfi is a consummate professional. She's not going to give any of the juice. So Tony, he finds out, he's going to do what he does. And I need to show love to her because she, 6 Degrees of Separation was in a film that I've watched a lot because it came out when I was going through puberty, and that's The Hand That Rocks the Cradle.
Mm-hmm.
She starred opposite Rebecca De Mornay, who was looking quite ripe in that film, and that was a sexist statement. And I'm going to stop talking for a few minutes.
Was that one of those the tape got thin?
That one broke.
Upon viewing, that
one broke. At about, I think it was like maybe like 56 minutes or something like that. You get, a bare-chested Rebecca De Mornay. I am talking from experience, people. That is a sexy woman. Later on in the film, she's wearing a white nightie and she goes out in the rain. It's cold.
You and Ralphie watching at home. You're like, Ralphie, the tape broke. I'll be back. Comes back with another thing of Gladiator.
Hold on, Gladiator.
Ralphie, the hand that rocks the cradle, not Gladiator. Why not Gladiator? Ralphie,
Russell Crowe is great. He's good. That boy good.
Good and terrible. So, this is taken from a traditional Christian liturgy for Easter, referencing the resurrection of Christ. Some versions add the word indeed to the end of the structure. Now, famously said in this episode by my new favorite recurring character of Janice's new boyfriend, who has narcolepsy. And just immediately makes any scene that he is in better. They're watching football on Thanksgiving, as you do.
He sleep. He not slept out.
Now, a little sneak peek at our next episode, where he says to Jackie Jr., "He is risen," and Jackie Jr. says, "We met at Thanksgiving."
It's a perfect response. Like, look, I am not going to engage you in this religious talk. I just need to remind you that we have met already, and let's just keep on trucking. That's the closest
And Janice
you're gonna
is
get.
upset. Listen, it is a major medical disease.
It's funny that she would go from Richie to this guy, But such is Janice. Such is Janice. But I will say, and we're wrapping up on the 4. That was, and I'm sorry I didn't get the references before when we were on the episode. Junior makes Tony, when he says, I got, the big casino. Don't tell nobody. I need you to play dumb on this whole thing. And Tony's like, hey, I got you. I'm not telling nobody. picks up the phone. Uncle Junior's got cancer. Like, I mean, it's like the scene switch, boom, Uncle Junior's got cancer. And then they're sitting there having a drink. But man, that was a strong 4 episodes. We got some humor in there, but we got some really, really, really heavy stuff.
Janice's boyfriend reminds me there was a show, it was on very briefly in the year 2000 called The Michael Richards Show. It was his follow-up following Seinfeld. And he was on there with a bunch of people, Tim Robbins, Bill Cobbs, and all that. And Tim Robbins' character is a voyeur.
Ah.
And as you are introduced to him, Bill Cobb's character says he's a peeping Tom. And he says, I'm a voyeur, whatever his name is, Bill. Let's say his name is Bill. I'm a voyeur, Bill. It's a disease, damn it. I feel like that's how Janice was with her boyfriend here.
It's a disease, damn it.
It's a disease, damn it. And he's over there. He is risen.
Have you heard the good news? Like, that's my guy. That's my guy. Oh, man.
So overall, what are we thinking about this season? We're 2/3 of the way in.
And we're seeing more from the writing. We're getting more characters that are adding to some phenomenal storyline. You'll notice in the earlier seasons, we really focused on the main cast. Anybody else was to lightly sprinkle a little bit of flavor to what they had going on. We're invested in Tracy. We're invested in Ralphie. We're invested in Jackie Jr. We're starting to get more characters on the outside that actually have recurring roles that mean something to the meat of the show. So definitely super excited. And before my phone dies and you all are wondering where TJ went, I promise it's not a mob hit. I'm safe. And I'm not even in the bathroom, I promise.
Or is he going to fake his death?
There you go.
I don't think he's dead. No, he's dead.
Oh boy, we're dead.
All right. So, next time we get more of Janice's boyfriend. We get a Christmas episode. Things are escalating between Jackie Jr. and Meadow, and also Jackie Jr. and Tony, and Jackie Jr. and Ralphie. Jackie Jr. is going to take center stage here. And as well as, I believe, we will have Paulie and Christopher in the woods again. A little bit colder this time. A little bit colder.
I was referring to Mikey Palmieri. So if I spoiled anything for anybody, stop listening and then listen now. I was talking about Mikey.
There you go. So go ahead and plug anything you got, my friend.
Look, real quick, because my screen's getting dark. Listen to this. Like and subscribe what we got going on here, because if you want more from us, then let us know. We want to give it to you. If you want to hear me in the podcast realm, I'm on the Tokyo Smoke Show, 3 episodes into my revival, and the I'm Hybro podcast, fairly weekly. Good times as always, brother. Thank you for having me on. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? A psychiatrist? No.
I would agree with that. Watch this. Subscribe, like, comment, share. Everything that you need to do. New episodes of the Joey Harris Show every Sunday, wherever you get your podcast. New episodes of the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show every Thursday, wherever you get your podcast. I'm at the Joey Harris on all social media, but don't worry about that right now. TJ, as always, my brother, thank you so much. We will get together soon. Good night, everybody.
Peace, brother.